Hey everyone, and welcome back to Hoffman Engineering. If you're anything like me, then you love trying out new types of 3D printing filament. There's a lot of really interesting materials out there on the market these days, and I want to try them all. However, there's a few problems I find myself facing. First is, in order to purchase a filament, you need to know that that particular brand and filament type exists in the first place. So that means you might miss out on some of the more interesting filaments. Second, even if you know a filament exists, specialty filament can be really expensive. 50, even $100 a roll for some of these. Now, if you're not sure you would like a particular type of filament, or if your machine can even support a particular type, I'm looking at you, flexible filaments, then spending $100 on a roll you may not even be able to use is a gamble not a lot of people are willing to make. Now, some companies do sell samples, but not all of them do. And with samples, you have to worry about shipping costs if you're buying a bunch of small samples from a bunch of different companies. That shipping cost adds up over time. So let me introduce you to something that might satisfy your cravings for new and interesting filaments. Say hello to the Maker Box, a monthly subscription box that does the curation of interesting filaments for you and sends them directly to your door, even internationally. And these aren't just different colors of PLA, they're interesting filaments that you would actually want to try out. So let's take a look at what's in this box and how you can save a few dollars off of your first month. So I have 2 months worth of filament here. I have September and October's box, and you can see that each of these samples comes in a nice sealed plastic bag with some desiccant to keep things dry. It has the name of the filaments, it has print settings so you know what speeds and temperatures to use for it. It comes with information on what makes these filaments special. It also shows you where you can purchase more, and if you really like it and do decide to purchase it, you can enter a special promo code in order to save some money on your first purchase. So that's really cool. So let's take a look at what September has. So September came with a flexible thermoplastic polyurethane, nice flexible filaments. It came with HIPS, which is great for support structures because it's a dissolvable type of filament. It came with a PLA PHA, which is an interesting hybrid, great for everyday use kind of thing. And then it also came with a glass-filled PLA, which has glass fibers that claims to be stronger, tougher, and more flexible than your normal PLA. And then for October came with a filament called Monumental, which is by Tree D, and it has like marble powder mixed in, which is a really cool filament. It also has Raptor Pla, which it claims to be annealable, so you bake it in an oven afterwards, and it has stronger capabilities. Came with a matte fiber HT PLA, so it's supposed to be a slightly stronger PLA that has a really neat matte finish. And also came with glow-in-the-dark PLA, so a PLA that will glow afterwards. And it has all kinds of information, and it's really cool just to get samples of these to try out. Now, each of these samples, you can see that they're a pretty hefty amount of filament there. They're about 15 meters. I weighed these samples and did a little calculations. They're about 50 to 60 grams each, which is about 15 meters of filament. So you can actually print some pretty beefy things and get a feel for what these filaments can offer. So when I saw this, I knew that I had to print a few things. So I printed one with the Monumental, and so this is the marble-filled filament. And you can, get a feel for how that filament reacts with your printer. And you can try out some of the things the filament claims. So for instance, this one claims to be really good at being able to be sanded afterwards with sandpaper and water. So I tried that with this particular filament. You can see this is the unsanded side and this is the sanded side. So it's enough filament for you to be able to get your hands on and try it out. So you can see here, I still have a lot of filament left over after this print. I could probably print 3, maybe 4 of these without using up the entire sample, which is really awesome. Another thing you can do is use it for strength comparison. So for instance, the glass-filled PLA claims to be stronger, a little bit more flexible. So what I did is used a little bit of it to print some samples so I can try out how hard it is to bend. And then you can compare that with other. So this is just normal PLA for my own sample. And You can definitely tell that it's stronger because, yeah, just snapped right there. So it just gives you a chance to try out the filaments and test their claims before spending, $80 on a roll of glass-filled filaments. I also tried out the flexible TPU here to see how it compares to some of my other flexible filaments. So here is a Stormtrooper Buddha printed in that flexible, and you can see it does have a really decent amount of flex there and printed beautifully on my machine. And you can compare it to a Ninja Flex prints of the same figure, same size, and you can just compare properties. And if you weren't sure that your printer could handle flexible filaments, because not all of the extruders can, well, this gives you a perfect chance to try it out rather than spending, $50 on a roll of this only to find out you'll never be able to use it. And finally, every now and then you may get a special little thing in your box. For instance, this one came with the filament cleaner. So just a little block of foam that you can feed the filament through before it goes into the extruder that wipes off, dust and dirt, that kind of stuff that may have collected on your filaments. So you may see things like this every now and then in your box as well. Now, one thing I do recommend if you start playing around with a bunch of samples is you'll want to have a couple empty spools that you can wind the samples onto before you start printing, because it can be a little challenging to try to print filaments from without a spool like this, just sticking it on your spool holder, because then you have to babysit it and you'll end up with failed prints like this where the filament clogs and catches on itself and then grinds through on the extruder. So I find that just having an empty spool and spooling the sample on it really helps your printability. You don't have to babysit it as much. So be sure to keep a couple empty spools around for all of these samples. So you can subscribe to the monthly box for $19 with free shipping inside the US or extra shipping to ship it internationally. Or if you are international, you can pick up the bi-monthly box and get 2 months worth of filament shipped to you every 2 months. So that way you can save a little bit on the shipping cost, because that can get expensive if you're shipping things monthly. So the bi-monthly box is what I have here, is great if you're international and you don't want to spend a lot of money on shipping. So looking at the type and variety of samples and how much you actually get for each of the samples, and the various benefits such as coupon codes when you purchase some of these filaments through these, this can actually be a really good deal, and it's a lot easier than trying to find these samples yourself and constantly be on the lookout for new and interesting filaments. I think this is a really neat idea. So if you want to try out MakerBox for yourself, you can go to makerbox.me and enter the promo code Hoffman for 15% off your first month service. And I hope you find this as interesting of an idea as I do, because I know the hassle of trying to find filament samples, and this makes it super easy, and you get some really fun stuff that you wouldn't be able to get on your own. So be sure to try it out, and let me know what you think about this down in the comments below. I would love to hear what you think. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.